And we're back with my community with another episode with my bestie, my mental health compadre, my chum from when we were wee lads, Connor Murphy. Connor Murphy, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. We just had a lovely walk with a lovely daughter.
Yeah.
Everything's going very nice. It's spring has sprung, summer's coming along its way, so can't complain. Life is good.
Life is good.
Life is good.
Connor, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Why don't you tell them your hopes, dreams, your life, the life, love, and pursuit of happiness of Connor Murphy?
Sure. I mean, life's hopes, goals, dreams. To have a happy and fulfilling life, and to me that can take so many forms, right? Like so much of what I think about is this is all like a work in progress, right? This is all kind of discovering yourself every day. I'm a former teacher, so I taught middle school with some training in like high school as well here in New Jersey. And I mean, I still fell in love with the phrase, being a lifelong learner. I had an interesting, my own personal journey in education and school, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point. But just knowing that there's so much to hope for, and there's so many ways to accomplish a happy life, and so I try not to restrict myself to think of this is the way to be happy. There are many ways to accomplish that, and I've been lucky enough, knocking on wood. I promise it's a wood table. That there's so many ways to accomplish that, so I don't want to box myself into one thought. So I thought back to all the ways in which I thought life would go wrong, or the ways in which life will go wrong, and kind of dodged a lot of those, and have now found myself going, man, there's just so many ways for this to go right, and try not to get too concerned about the best path forward, as opposed to just a good path forward.
Yeah. Yeah. Isabel agrees.
Isabel agrees, and when you get that kind of stamp of approval, something's going right.
That's right.
So who says
right.
no?
So a lot of our friendship, like you said, pillars, I believe was the direct quote you said, originated when we were kids, probably around eighth, ninth grade or something like that.
Yeah, like a late middle school, early high school.
Yeah, and you had what is it considered early onset depression? I'm not sure.
There's a lot of fun things going on here.
Yeah, there's a lot. Of,
well, we can get into a lot of it. I'll tell you, at the time, there was no diagnosis.
Okay.
There was no pursuit of getting a label or a diagnosis on anything. A lot of that has to do with the family situation that I grew up in, and a lot of what we saw, what I kind of experienced as the youngest of 6 children, all boys, and all in some way having to deal with some sort of, whether it's like a physical, issues with certain parts of us here, or obviously mental distress and mental health issues, mental health trauma, as well as just, things like addiction, that sort of thing that I was completely blind to at the time as a child, just because the range in our age group, my oldest brother is 20 years older than me. So there's a lot of foundation in my family of we're close, we love each other, we support each other, but there are just some aspects that just were not explored or not given the room that was needed to analyze them properly or to support them properly. And I blame no one for that, right? Life is a difficult thing, but it does have consequences. So I was never diagnosed with anything when I was younger. That part came later, when I had a little bit more of my own, of my own volition, a little bit more of my own agency, and a little bit more of my own introspection and experience with, with life through my formative years of my teens and my 20s. But yeah, we met when through friends, through like mutual friends, growing up in the same town, going to the same schools and all that. But it took a while for me to establish friendships because I didn't really go to school, as you recall. so it's kind of hard to be like, this is my social circle, and like I wouldn't leave like a room for a while, which is kind of par for the course with some of my other like home life sort of stuff. But yeah, we kind of had a connection early on, but your own experiences were very different than my own experiences in terms of timeline and how they manifested and how the severity and the complexity of those. But we had some pretty fun early conversations.
Yes. So I believe some of our early conversations. And by the way, so eloquent. I love you so much.
I'm just some guy.
Yeah,
I'm just some guy.
yeah,
I'm just some guy.
You're my guy.
Yeah, well, the feeling's mutual. Not that I'm also my guy. It's
Yeah,
reciprocated.
yeah.
Exactly.
But I remember we were having like a conversation, and you were just visibly upset, and I just had that very toxic mental health notion where it's like, yeah, Con, like why don't you just get over it? Like it's okay. Like you'll be fine. Like just move on. Like
Yeah.
you can get past whatever you're going through. Like it's gonna work out.
Just
and obviously,
brush it off. Brush it off.
yeah, and obviously not understanding the complexities of just mental health as a wee lad, but also just I feel a lot of people still have that mindset in adulthood,
Hmm.
and it's disheartening and it's saddening because we experienced that at an early age. And I know you remember one of the first conversations I had after my first manic episode. You were like, I think the first person I reached out to after I got out of the hospital, and I apologized to you because I just didn't get it.
Yeah.
How could I understand what people were going through when I hadn't experienced it on my own.
And I mean, I still hold a grudge to this day. You will never be forgiven, and I will not rest until you're in the earth. That was when I will have the first good night's sleep of my life. Absolutely not. No, I mean, I remember these things. So what's kind of funny, and well, I'll touch on this, very, very briefly and sporadically, probably throughout this, just to reinforce it. But there will be parts of this, kind of like chat we're having, that will be difficult for me to talk about, and I don't mean that that's because they bear a certain, mental trauma associated with them. That's not like an emotional baggage. It is it is indicative of how I kind of made it through a lot of those formative years of some difficulties. And that was just, there are large swaths of my life that are like a blank canvas. I do not remember them well, if I remember them at all. I remember growing up, I was, again, I have the influence of a lot of older brothers. I would say that in an academic manner of speaking, I was considered, to be, advanced or whatever, all these things that I hate now to label on children, especially as a former educator. Just, it's rough to ever categorize people, especially when they're still forming. But I understand the nature to do so. But I remember being, praised for like, your memory is so phenomenal, like you're really good at analyzing things, like you think very well, you're very eloquent, all these things, so on and so forth. And I remember kind of having that as a crux of my identity, like kind of a hearth from which I could gather warmth to myself, is that I could think back to anything that I might be doing wrong. I was never the most athletic kid, even though I like sports or what have you, but I could remember being like, but you know what? At least I'm like smart, and I've maybe I've got some good things going for me, in like an intellectual level or what have you. And a lot of that was just like a memory that I would have, or just like being able to relate to people interpersonally, and that would also be somewhat memory related. And now I have like almost none of that pre like 19 years old, 20 years old. I'm now 34, and so much of that is just gone, or I've had to reconstruct memory, with memory always being, quite fallible, quite vulnerable. But just experiencing that firsthand, like anecdotally knowing, I just don't know what it was like to be me when I was little, or just trying so hard to imagine what I was like and kind of putting the puzzle pieces together, and trying to reconstruct like what I was like as a kid, or anything like that, because I'm kind of devoid of some of those like milestone memories. Like I went to like proms and stuff. Like I kind of put some stuff together later on, but I had these gaps in. Man, I just you give me the ages of 9 to 15, and I just could not roll with that. Like it's a, I'm sure it was a doozy. Knowing what was going on, what I was doing on a day to day, month to month basis is kind of the gap. That being said, that was quite a long tangent to approach. I remember these conversations. Like there are a few of these, and it almost feels like
Core memories.
maybe they're rooted in like the, analyzing myself a little bit more, and those first like real like social interactions, like with kids my age, like John, and friends in that group that, I got to see firsthand growing up and experiencing things that I feel bad about, right? Whether or not that was their own struggles with relationships or with themselves or with family or with grief or what have you, that I had kind of like speed run as a child, and I'm like, oh, I remember how awful and terrible that was, and I would go through that. So I think that kind of helped with my empathy, and that's why I don't really judge your. I don't even want to say lack of empathy. It's just a lack of experience in dealing with people who are having either a difficult time or an atypical time or whatever it might be. But I do remember it would be a point of frustration sometimes where it's just like a frustration with not necessarily other people's lack of understanding or lack of empathy, because I think that's always been a part of my brain is like give people a break, or like let give people the room to grow, I think is a big thing. And that could not be more true of anyone other than yourself. Give yourself room to grow. But I think a major part of that was my own experiences having some older brothers, especially my the oldest brother that's closest to me in age. We were thick as thieves. I still consider him like my best friend. But you grow up, and I would see him struggle with depression, anxiety, like agoraphobia, like he was not able to leave the house. I experienced that firsthand, seeing him kind of morph into that person while I was still very young. He's 5 years older than me, and I remember him being like an 11, a 12, a 13-year-old, and being this kind of like a happy-go-lucky, life of the party sort of charmer guy, into somebody so paralyzed with anxiety, fear, self-hatred, self-loathing that they like wouldn't leave a room for weeks at a time. So that was like difficult. But I remember going through that myself as a younger kid, seeing somebody that you care about, or in my case, or even like a friend that you might have interest in, like developing a stronger relationship with, just like, dude, like, snap out of it, or because it's just human nature, right? To want to help, but maybe not have the answer. That you just at some point you just kind of throw your hands up in the air and you go, like, is this just gonna end? Like, is it just gonna like be over? Like, what are we gonna do? Like, how can you just, I don't know, just punch your way through it, like, sort of a thing, and that's a difficult thing to wrap your head around when you're young, especially. But it's unfortunate that so many of us at some point will encounter, either ourselves or with people that we are very close to, very near and dear to our hearts, that will experience something traumatic or overwhelming or anything along the lines that will disrupt their lives or their sense of self. And at that point, it might click a little bit more, because you can see that transformation. You can see how it erodes you. Kind of every facet of you, right? Every wave just takes a little bit more sand with it, and the beach gets barren. But I I remember speaking to you, and at some point, like, never blaming you, but then we would have conversations throughout like college and with other friends as well, and it was just a not like oh, they finally get it, because there's almost like a double edged sword of, like, when we started to get struggles, it was not like, oh, finally you get it. I always wanted to turn that into, hey man, I understand. Like, I've been there, sort of a thing, and that's an important part, I think, of understanding yourself, and also being able to introspect and see how you've grown. Because at this point in my life, it's hard for me to relate to the person I was 15 years ago, 20 years ago. At that point, he is a stranger. And in some ways, I wonder if that's like a defense mechanism that's kind of like separated my life out into, like, you know, in the midst of it versus in the wake of it. And I don't envy that guy. Don't envy that kid. But I know that if I was able to go back and talk to him and be like, none of this is going to go the way you're thinking, for good and for bad, right? It's not nearly as bad, or all the horrors that you thought were inevitable, or all the failures that you thought you were going to be responsible for, did not come into fruition. But also all those like lofty goals, or maybe they'll just happen things, didn't happen. But the beauty in that is you found a secret third door, right? You found another way to find happiness, and I did not accomplish that alone. I think it's very rare that anybody does. But I am lucky. I'm very lucky to have found that path, and within that door, once you open it, a million paths kind of stretch from that, which I've found very relieving, very reassuring, and kind of like not quite like self-actualization level, because we still all have our doubts, we still all have our worries. Life is life. Just because one thing is solved doesn't mean all things are. There's no panacea, but it's been it's been a journey, man. It's been a journey, and seeing you uh, go through similar difficulties, but in a much different manner, right? Like, whether or not it's different diagnoses, different experiences, different highs and lows of that, it is remarkable, like the reassurance that can come from realizing how common this all is, despite a stigma still around it. And I think we are right at a perfect generation. We're both in our 30s. Like, we're at a perfect generation where it became, meaning mental health, it became something that went from, oh, we don't talk about that, right? Like, I can think of my oldest brothers, and even like my aunts, and my father, who died when I was 13. Just like, mental health was just, it was truly taboo. Um, and if it was recognized, it was seen only as a black mark on you as a person, right? You became, almost like an untouchable. And it would stain and scar your life, right? It was the permanent record of life that you think about, like when you're a kid. You're like, it's gonna follow me all the way through my life, man. Like, oh my god, I'll never get into an AP class because. And then, meanwhile, this is like, oh, I'll never be loved or worthy of love, or I will only harm myself or others, right? But like, now we're at like a nice little diverging path of recognizing it, removing somewhat of the stigma, but still having a little stink on it, still having a little bit of a. I'm glad that you recognize that about yourself, but like, it would just be a lot easier to just be like a regular, normal person, which obviously doesn't exist. But it's funny. There's this confluence of different perceptions, forms of like reclaiming or like empowerment or like understanding yourself through these different diagnoses, or understanding yourself through these different perceptions of them. But it's going to be interesting to see, once I become old and feeble, and knowing that now I will make it to that point, which is great, and just looking at the kids and just going like, yeah, they oversharing. I don't know. I gotta learn to grow with this, I guess, right? But that's just kind of the nature of growing up and being an adult. Is you have the next generation coming behind you, and they're gonna reinvent the wheel, and they're gonna figure some stuff out that you didn't. But that's a good thing.
That's growth.
Yeah, you don't want
Yeah.
to stagnate, right?
No,
you don't
no.
you don't want this to be, oh, we did it.
No, no.
That's great that we've made progress, but you've never done it.
No. And that ties into what you said about progress at the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
Like, progress is never complete.
Yeah.
We are always making progress every single day, and the unfortunate or fortunate truth of it all is we are just all works in progress, and we need to keep going, keep moving forward, and understand that you're never truly complete, but there's beauty in that. Like, that's okay. You don't need to be complete. You have the notion that you can continue to work on yourself, and just take solace in that. Like, just know that the growth process is a long, tumultuous process that is never truly done. But as long as you keep growing, it's okay. Like, you're going to become better and better, and probably not recognize the person, like you said you didn't recognize the person you were 15 years ago. The Connor 15 years from now probably won't recognize the person you are now. Like, it's a never ending process, growth, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to have an end date, as many people think.
Absolutely. Like, I'm hoping to go to Spain this summer, with my lovely wife and my also lovely in-laws, her family. We're going to go see the solar eclipse, and we're going to be. It's very exciting, and we're going to be landing in Barcelona, and there's a church there called the Sagrada Familia, and that church has been actively being built, under construction, since the 1800s.
Oh, wow.
It is a masterclass of architecture, and it has been passed down now through generations of trying to complete this building. And it's got a very distinct style. Look it up; it's absolutely stunning. But it's not done, right. And there are lots of artists. My wife is an artist, but like throughout history, if you have great people who will accomplish the thing, right? They will get done. This church will be built. You can take this in any way, or this thing will be discovered. This job will be attained. This land will be conquered, right? This can span kind of everything that we've done as people. And once it's done, I feel like there's a very common unfortunate epiphany of, well, what do I do now? Right? Like if you kind of have that one act as the beacon toward which you are drawn, and you close out everything else in life, it's once you reach there, or once you've built it and once you've discovered what's there, that there's no distant shore where a new beacon lights. You need to keep pushing the boundary. You need to keep expanding the horizon. You need to keep seeking new shores, because if you don't, you'll stay put. And we just say stagnation, right, is the enemy of growth. It is the antithesis of that, like definitionally. But so much of that is done together, right? Like even in this church, kind of analogy that I'm making here, it's taken generations of not only architects but construction workers, designers, the people who feed those people, right? It's a community. Community is how we grow. And uh, I used to have a somewhat like perverse like heroes kind of death fantasy, right? Where I went like, oh, when I had a very low opinion of myself, when I just felt like I didn't really provide any value or any worth, or at least I wasn't worth the effort to do so. I just went like, like the way to make a life worth living, because I always wanted to have like like a life worth living. I don't need to be like Alexander the Great. I don't need to sweep across the Middle East and conquer the known world. But what I do want to do is live a life where on the deathbed, hopefully, just going like, you know what, that was all right. I left the place a better place than what I found it, in my own way. I'm not saying I need to revolutionize the world, but maybe just my own little pocket of it. But it takes a community to do that. And when I was a kid, I went very much into, well, how about I light myself on fire to keep other people warm, right? I can be the consumable. I can be the sacrifice, and I can do that, and that's how I can build value, right? I will destroy myself. I will take away pieces and basically harvest myself for parts. So whether or not that's giving advice that I know is good but I don't follow, helping others, achieve their dream, but completely ignoring my own. Um, that was kind of my modus operandi. That was my true north. That is what I followed, and then only realizing like, well, that's going to exhaust itself pretty quickly, and also for the people that you're trying to help, ideally they would notice that you're doing this, which is what happened, right? People would be like, hey man, you got to start taking care of yourself more, and the more that you take care of yourself, the more you can take care of others, and then that's like a legacy of love and partnership and all that. So it's no longer that, set yourself on fire to keep others warm. It's if you all look for fuel, and if you all help each other, you can keep each other warm forever, right? Like that is something that realizing that, and feeling the benefits of the support system that I've been lucky enough to have with family and folks like John, and a lot of other folks in the world, and in my own personal life. That's one of the most powerful things about being a person, is how, we are all individuals, right? But when you zoom out far enough, we're pretty indistinguishable from like an ant colony, or like a mycelium network of mushrooms that like spores talking to each other. Like it's just it's kind of wonderful how you can't like remove a person from society and still expect them to be fully human. Like we're all in it kind of together, and that's a wonderful way to grow, is through community, through empathy, and through not only the willingness to grow, but the willingness to let other people grow as well, like through their mistakes, through like how when John was young and he looked at me and just went like, dude, snap out of it. Like it's passe, it's overdone, it's so dramatic. When I had hair, it was full covered in the eye, going like glowering through the eyebrow. Like it was borderline performative at some parts, right? But it's no, because he grows just like I grow, and then at the end of this, we come 20 years later, hanging around table. I got a life I could not be happier with. in ways that I could not have predicted. We got happy man, beautiful child, lovely wife. Like we're all finding our way, and I highly doubt anybody is on the path they thought they were going to be on 10, 15, 20, 25 years ago, much like I have. And for me, that was relief because I did not see a bright future ahead, and now we just got more shores to explore. So
You're so adorable.
I am.
I
I tried
kiss
to.
you, but
Yeah, but
I'm married now.
so am I.
Yeah, we can take the rings off.
Yeah, exactly.
But,
How do I turn this
Connor,
off? Yeah.
that was beautifully said, as always. You warmed many hearts, including mine and my daughter, who probably understands you in some capacity.
We'll get there. We'll get there.
She understands.
Yeah.
But before we end this, Con, I mentioned to you, I want you to tell the audience two things. One lesson you learned from life on your 34 years of living, and one piece of advice. And I guess if they're together, that's fine. But if you could separate them, that'd be good as well.
Sure. I mean, there's so much advice, right? Like that's what happens when you grow up. Is hopefully if you've lived a life that is fulfilling in some way, you're gonna have learned some things. Some from good experiences, some from bad experiences. I'll go with I'm stealing it from my brother, who has also faced his own challenges. One that I've referred to in the past, and prior in this little podcast here with my brother who had crippling anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, agoraphobia, could not be part of society due to his illness. He now just recently got a promotion at his job, works in New York City, commutes, happy, fulfilling, wonderful life, and I could not be more proud of him. And I'm an easy person to get emotional, and I if I wanted to, I could just cry on here just talking about all the people that I love and I'm proud of, some of which are in this room. But he, when he was developing this sense of purpose and trying to understand how he could escape this again through medical intervention, through medication, through therapy, through a support system, he loved that the only way out is through, and that is so true. And that is such a big piece of it. You can't stand still and expect the things to change around you, right? Whether or not that's the scenery, whether or not that's the conditions, right? The world will move past you. It will not mold itself to what you want it to be. So you gotta keep going. That can sound hollow if you just expect it to say, yeah, so just keep going, because sometimes that is one of the hardest things to do. There are parts of my life where I didn't want to get out of bed. When I say that's like, oh, because I'm a sleepy little guy. No, like I knew that there was nothing good out there in the world, so I'd rather just maybe curl over, and if I go to bed and I don't wake up for a long time, how long, who knows? I mean, that's better than facing whatever's out there. But in the long run, it's not. And there is so much good to find in the world and also good to make. And it's very hard to do that if you just are in the rut. So that first step goes a long way. So the only way out is through. And if you know other people who are experiencing that difficulty, extend the hand, pull them out, and say, we'll walk through this together. And that, I think, is another part of like that lesson learned into that life advice, which is, especially if you've experienced it yourself, you know how difficult it can be, and really hitting the emphasis on that, like community support systems, all that good stuff. Be the person that helps. Be the person that for others they go back and they say, thank God they were there, or thank God they did that for me. Kindness goes such a long way, and it costs extremely little. Like the ROI on kindness, empathy, a little favor here and there, remarkable. Like it's tough to beat. I don't think you could do it on DraftKings or anything like that, but like bet on that. Bet on kindness. Bet on being more than just living for you, and that will go a long way. So keep moving and help others move. I think is how I feel.
I love it.
I love you.
I love you.
Ah!
All right, so we are gonna kiss.
Oh yeah.
But thank you so much for being on my community, Connor. You're a scholar, a gentleman, all the things. I've always just admired your heart, buddy. It's unrivaled by most, truly.
Thank you, man.
And
Right back at you.
as far as our next guest, I guess we'll have like Sigmund and Freud
Sure,
to compete with you, but I don't think he holds a candle, honestly.
He holds a cigar, but he doesn't hold a candle.
Yeah.
We'll play.
But that's all we have for today. Good night and good luck, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Beautiful.